On Thanksgiving morning, a rancher found a terrified woman and her baby hiding in his barn. But the man hunting her was the town's own sheriff. Thanksgiving morning in Willow Creek began like any other for Ethan Miller. The sun had barely risen, painting the sky a pale orange as he stepped outside with a mug of hot coffee, warming his hands. The cold air bit at his cheeks, and the ground was still frosted from the night before. His ranch stood quiet, too quiet even for a holiday morning. Ethan walked toward the barn to feed his horses, boots crunching against the frozen earth. As he reached for the gate, a strange sound drifted through the cold air. It was soft, shaky, almost like a whimper. He paused, listening harder. Then it came again, this time clearer, a cry. Not an animal cry, but a human one. His heartbeat quickened. Few people ever wandered onto his land. The nearest neighbor lived nearly 2 miles away. Ethan pushed the barn door open slowly, letting the warm smell of hay and horses spill out. At first he saw nothing unusual. Then movement caught his eye in the far corner where old blankets and tools were stored. He took a careful step forward. That's when he saw her, a young woman barely in her 20s curled up on a pile of hay. Her clothes were dirty, her hair tangled, and a torn blanket was wrapped around her shoulders. But what startled Ethan most wasn't the girl. It was the tiny baby pressed against her chest, bundled tightly in a thin cloth. The girl's eyes flew open at the sound of his boots. She gasped, holding the baby tighter, her whole body trembling. "Please, don't call anyone," she whispered, voice cracking with fear. Ethan raised both hands gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." He crouched down, keeping his distance so she wouldn't feel trapped. The baby let out a soft cry and the girl rocked him, whispering something comforting under her breath. Ethan noticed bruises on her arms, fresh ones, dark and painful looking. A burn mark near her wrist made his stomach twist. "How long have you been out here?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. She only shook her head and looked away, as if even speaking the truth might put her in danger. Ethan took a slow breath. "It's freezing out here. Come inside. I'll make you something warm. You and the little one need it." For a moment she hesitated. Her eyes darted toward the barn door, as though she feared someone might burst in at any second. Then in a tired, broken voice she whispered 3 chilling words. "He's looking for us." Inside the warm kitchen, Ethan placed a steaming mug of milk on the table and gently handed the girl a plate of toast. She looked exhausted, more exhausted than any traveler he had ever seen. Her hand shook slightly as she held the baby, who was now resting quietly against her shoulder. "You can sit," Ethan said softly. "You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you." She hesitated before slowly lowering herself into the chair. She kept glancing at the windows, flinching at every gust of wind that rattled the glass. The fear in her eyes wasn't the kind that disappeared easily. It was deep, rooted and fresh. After a few minutes of silence, the girl finally spoke. "My name is Lily." It sounded as if saying her own name cost her strength. "And this is Noah." The baby opened his eyes briefly, revealing bright blue irises before drifting back to sleep. "He looks healthy," Ethan said gently. "You've taken good care of him." Lily's lips trembled. She looked down at the baby, brushing a tiny curl from his forehead. "I'm trying," she whispered. "But it's getting harder." Ethan pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Lily, why were you hiding in my barn? And who were you talking about earlier? Who's looking for you?" Her eyes filled with panic again. She clutched Noah tightly, as if afraid someone would snatch him away that very moment. "I can't tell you everything yet." Her voice trailed off. "But he'll find us. He always does." Before Ethan could ask more, a low rumble echoed outside, slow, heavy, too familiar for comfort. A truck engine. Lily's head snapped toward the window, her entire body tightening like a drawn bow. "No," she whispered. "He's here." Ethan stood up quickly and peeked through the curtain. A black pickup truck crawled along the dirt road, moving past the front pasture. The driver wasn't just looking at the land, he was scanning it, searching. "Is that him?" Ethan asked quietly. Lily nodded slowly, her face drained of color. "Yes," she swallowed hard. "And you can't trust him." Ethan frowned. "Who is he?" She hesitated, then whispered something that hit him like a punch. "He's not just dangerous. He's a sheriff. My husband. And he wants Noah back, no matter what he has to do." Ethan moved quickly but quietly, guiding Lily toward the basement door hidden behind the pantry shelves. Stay here, he said, his voice steady but urgent. I'll handle whoever's outside. Lily held Noah close, tears gathering in her eyes. Please be careful, she whispered. Ethan nodded and closed the door gently, leaving her in the dim glow of the basement light. He stepped back into the living room just as the gravel outside crunched under heavy boots. A loud knock shook the front door. Ethan took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and opened it. Sheriff Dalton stood on the porch, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in his brown uniform. He looked like the kind of man people respected or feared. His eyes were cold, sharp, and searching. "Mornin', Ethan," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mind if I step in?" Ethan blocked the doorway. "What's going on?" Dalton folded his arms. "Got a runaway situation. A young woman, early 20s. Car broke down near Route 9. She took off on foot with a baby." He tilted his head slightly, studying Ethan's face like he was testing for cracks. "You haven't seen her, have you?" Ethan kept his expression calm. "Can't say I have." The sheriff's jaw tightened. "She's unstable, Ethan. Dangerous, even. That baby not hers. Stole him from his real family." He leaned in closer. "If she comes here, you call me immediately." Ethan felt a hot wave of anger, but he swallowed it down. "I'll keep an eye out." Dalton studied him a moment longer, then finally turned away and walked back to his truck. The engine roared, and the vehicle slowly disappeared down the long dirt road. The moment it was out of sight, Ethan rushed to the basement. Lily was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, Noah sleeping in her arms. "He said the baby isn't yours," Ethan said gently, trying not to sound accusing. Lily looked up, eyes full of pain. He would say that? She reached into her jacket with trembling fingers and pulled out a folded paper. Ethan took it carefully, opening it. A birth certificate. Noah's birth certificate. Mother, Lily Dalton. Father, left blank. Ethan looked up in shock. "Dalton, he's your husband?" Lily nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't want to tell you, but yes. And he'll never let us go." She tightened her grip on Noah's tiny hand. "That's why I ran, before he hurt us again." Night fell over Willow Creek like a heavy blanket, swallowing the ranch in deep shadows. Ethan lit only one lamp in the kitchen, keeping the rest of the house dark. Lily sat at the table with Noah, gently rocking him while Ethan checked outside through the narrow crack between the curtains. The sight made his chest tighten. Two sheriff department vehicles idled on the far end of the road, their headlights off, their silhouettes barely visible. Flashlights flickered in the woods beyond his fence line. Voices carried faintly through the cold air. Dalton's deputies. Searching. "They're getting closer," Ethan murmured. Lily tensed, her knuckles whitening around the baby's blanket. "He must have told them I'm dangerous. They'll follow his orders without asking questions." "You're not dangerous," Ethan said firmly. "You're scared. There's a difference." Lily wiped her tears with the back of her sleeve. "They won't see that. Dalton controls everything, what people hear, what they believe. If he says I'm unstable, they'll treat me like a criminal." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm not letting them take you." Outside, a beam of light swept across the barn door. Footsteps crunched closer. Ethan stood and motioned for Lily. "Come on. We're moving you two somewhere safer." They slipped out the back door into the freezing night. The wind cut through their clothes, and every sound felt too loud. Ethan led them across the yard to the old root cellar behind the barn. Half buried underground, hidden beneath a wooden hatch covered in dried leaves. He pulled the hatch open. "Get inside. No one will find you here." Lily climbed down the steps carefully, holding Noah close to her chest. Ethan grabbed a thick blanket and passed it to her. "Stay quiet. I'll handle whatever happens." Just as he dropped the hatch into place, a voice boomed from the yard. "Ethan Miller. Come on out." Lily's breath hitched. Noah stirred. Ethan swallowed hard and stepped away from the cellar. Standing tall in the open space, Sheriff Dalton marched toward him, flanked by two deputies holding rifles. "You're making this real difficult," Dalton growled. "You know where she is. I can see it on your face." Ethan didn't move. "She's not here." Dalton stepped inches from him, rage twisting his features. "If you're hiding her, I swear." A deputy interrupted. "Sheriff, we should handle this by the book." Dalton spun around. "I am the book." Lightning seemed to crackle in the air, and Ethan realized this wasn't just a search anymore. It was a showdown. The night air felt electric as Ethan stood facing Sheriff Dalton, the tension sharp enough to cut through the cold. The deputies behind Dalton shifted uneasily, their breaths coming out in quick clouds. Something about their sheriff's fury didn't feel normal even to them. Dalton jabbed a finger at Ethan's chest. "You think you can lie to me? You think you can hide my wife on my land?" His voice shook with barely contained rage. "Give her to me now." Ethan stood firm. "She's not a piece of property, and she's not safe with you." The sheriff's eyes widened with a mix of shock and fury. Reaching for his gun, he snarled, "You don't get to decide what's safe for my family." Click. A gun cocked behind him. Dalton froze. Deputy Ward, a quiet young man who rarely spoke more than a few sentences at a time, stepped forward, hands steady but jaw trembling. His rifle was pointed directly at his own sheriff. "That's enough, sir," Ward said, voice firm. "We've covered for you long enough." Dalton's face twisted. "What are you talking about?" Ward swallowed hard. "The calls from your neighbors. The screaming from your house. The bruises we pretended not to see. We thought it was stress, pressure, anything but what it really was." One of the other deputies stepped beside Ward. "We're done lying for you." Dalton's expression twisted between disbelief and humiliation. "You're choosing her over me?" "We're choosing the truth," Ward said. Dalton lunged, but the deputies were faster. Within seconds, they restrained him, forcing him to the cold ground as he shouted, and fought like a man losing everything he had controlled for years. Ethan didn't wait to watch. He sprinted to the barn, heart racing, and pulled back the wooden hatch. Lily's terrified eyes stared up at him. "It's over," Ethan said softly. "Dalton's in custody. You and Noah are safe." Lily climbed out, holding Noah close. When she stepped onto the frosted grass, her knees buckled. Ethan caught her, steadying her gently. The deputies escorted the screaming sheriff to a patrol truck. Ward approached Ethan and Lily, removing his hat respectfully. "Ma'am, we'll make sure he never hurts you again. You have my word." Lily nodded, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. As the flashing lights disappeared down the road, Ethan wrapped a warm blanket around Lily's shoulders and guided her toward the house. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said softly. She looked up at him, trembling but finally free. "Where do we go now?" she whispered. Ethan smiled, brushing a tear from Noah's cheek. "You're home now." And for the first time since her nightmare began, Lily believed it.